Good evening, DIYers. What we're going to do today is I'm going to show you a video of how to actually do the internal compression spring seal, which is for a Showa front suspension fork, and this obviously fits into your internal damper. Very easy to do if you know what to do. So if you look at your front fork, this video is not around doing new seals. There's quite a few videos on YouTube that you can look at doing new seals. This is for doing the seal on the top of your front fork. Typical symptoms that you'll get if there's a leak in the top fronts in the top seal, and I can just show you an example of the top seal is this little seal here. A typical example of what will happen if that seal leaks is that when you open the screw here for your compression, you'll see that you'll get a hissing sound every now and again, like a tss, every time you open it up, which then will definitely show that there's air moving past this point, past the seal, which is creating that hissing sound that you're hearing there. Also, when We'll get to that a bit later on, but you'll see that your internal damper that I've got here does not extend out totally like this, like it should, after you've bleeded the system and you fitted the top screw in. So that's the typical symptoms what you'll get, and hopefully this video will make it a lot easier for you to replace it, and you don't have to go spend a lot of money to have somebody replace it for you. The tools that are important to do this, that I feel is really important. Without this, I don't think you should even try and attempt this. So it's very important to buy yourself one of these. The one that I've got here, Tusk, not really expensive, but we'll be using this quite a bit during the assembly of the shock. Apart from that, there's really just your standard screwdrivers and a few spanners, and then I'll show you how to make this tool here. This is to get the bottom part that screws into this assembly. This screws into the assembly like that, and this tool I made specifically to get that out without breaking it. So I'll show you how I made that tool. Okay, so a very nice trick that I can show you here is when you take, and obviously guys, just for reference purposes, because you're looking at a disassembled screw assembly here, this actually goes on there like this, and what is very important when you take this off is to keep it exactly in sequence. You'll see there's all kinds of little parts in here, and to keep it in sequence, there's springs, there's all kinds of things, and what I do is I cable tie it together like this so that it stays that way, and then you know that this is the way that it should go on, and you don't have an issue when you put it back onto your screw assembly. Okay, so what we're going to start doing now is I'm going to start fitting the new seal. So if you look at the assembly here, this is actually the part where the seal goes in. Please note that, and I want to take this out, there's a washer that goes on this side of this little aluminium fitting, which then presses against the spring. The seal goes on that side, and the seal would go in like this, so the open face would face you, so the seal is going to fit like that. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that now. Okay, so to fit the seal, it is very important, and this is the new seal. You see I've got the old seal that's actually in the packet then. Oh, wait a minute, no, sorry, that's the old seal. This is the new seal that I'm taking out the packet. There's the old seal. So very important is to put some grease on it, because you want to make sure that the seal goes in as easy as possible. And you also want to put some grease inside this aluminium fitting, so you just want to make sure that it gets in there quite good. And then you want to push this in, and you want to use finger pressure for the most part of it, because I mean, okay, so you can see the seal is now almost in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the washer that fits against the seal, and I'm going to put the washer on top of the seal, and I'm going to now push down on that washer. So what you need to do there is, I just need to get the right socket. Okay, so it's important to take a socket that is almost the size of the outside diameter. You can see that one is almost there, and then you don't have to force that, you just hit it. And you will see that the seal has now been moved in squarely, and you can actually see the little recess there, and that recess is for a little circlip that fits in there. So it's important that you can see that recess so that you can fit the circlip. Okay, as you can see the recess for the circlip. All you do is you insert the circlip, and make sure that this does not shoot away from you when you fit it. Not difficult to do. Once it's in there, I always like to take a pick and just see that outside there, then just move it around a bit so that you know that it has been fitted 100%. Try and do that without scratching your aluminium, the face of the aluminium fitting. See it? I can move it around there, so I know the new seal is in 100%. So I've got the seal in there, and I have got the washer in, and I've got the circlip in. From this side, obviously nothing. Okay, but what is very important, guys, is when you work on suspension like this, is to always do this as clean as possible. So keep the environment clean. So remember, from this side there's a washer that goes in there like that. The washer sits on the face there, and that is so that this assembly, the shock sits on top of that washer. Okay, so before we push this piston through the new seal, to make sure the seal is not going to get hurt by this process, make sure that it is greased and that piston will just push through easy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to push the piston through, and I'm going to make sure that I don't hurt the face of the seal. So this is, there we go, there it is. You can see it sticking out that side, and there it is. So what needs to happen now is that we have to put this screw assembly back onto our assembly, and this is where we need to use this tool. So if you can quickly come over to my bench on this side here, I'm going to remove my inner suspension damper, which is already filled with oil. So I just want to put that down in an upside position. Very important, guys, when you work on something like this, you don't have to screw something down tight. This stuff is made of aluminium, so you don't want to try and do it too tight. You just want to do it in such a way that it fits. So this is my little trick. You put your tool in there and you screw that on so that the tool is sitting quite stiff in there, and then you take the whole assembly, and what I do then is you fit the assembly into the recess there that the tool creates. So it's important to put that right at the top of your bench clamp so that the assembly will fit in flush, because you're going to screw stuff in now, and you don't want to. The whole idea behind this is not to put this in your bench clamp, because this screw will definitely get hurt in the process. So I fit it in there, and it's there it sits. So you can now screw onto this, no problem. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to use some Loctite, and I'm just going to put a bit of Loctite on this assembly. So I'm just going to clean the threads there, clean the threads, put a bit of Loctite on, just a bit, so that we just make sure it doesn't have to go on, and you don't have to torque it or anything like that, just to make sure that it's not going to just come off. Okay, and all we do is we screw it in. I'm going to screw it in like this, and I'm going to show you now how I made this little tool to do this. So we take it in by hand as far as it will go. Alright, it's in there, and what I'm going to do then is I'm going to just give it a bit of, and okay, in mine I'm using a 17. anything that will just give it a bit of torque, and that's all you need on the screw. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm fitting it in the top here, and this is really just a you just putting a bit of tension on it. You don't have to push this real hard. And then what you do is, I'm going to show you how I made this. This is just some insulation tape that I fitted here. I'm going to pull that off. I'm going to pull my two nails out. Okay, nails are out, and there you go. There's the assembly fitted, and as you can see, this is a round assembly with two little holes. So what did I do to do then? What I did was, very easy, clever little trick. This is a normal spark plug wrench. I don't even know from what bike. You drill two holes through it, and you need to make sure that those holes are parallel, so they're exactly the same. And what you then do is you align them with the holes inside your assembly on your shock. So in the screw assembly you align it there. And then a good trick is to use, I've used concrete nail pins here that fit into those holes. So basically you just align the holes, you fit the pin, and you do that on both sides. So you'll see I've got two pins. I fit the other pin on the other side as well into the hole into that screw assembly. And what you have now is something that you can turn to release that nut that you've got there. And then what I did here is I just put some insulation tape around to keep the pins in. That's all I did there. So very easy, and it's not going to cost you any money to make, and it works a charm. So there you can see screw assembly is on. So let's move to our next step. Okay guys, so now we have the assembly basically fitted, the new seal is in, got the washers in, and what I'm going to do is we're going to fit this part of our assembly now. So like I explained previously, it's cable tied, so I'm going to cut the cable tie. There we go. And then, like I said, this is just to make sure that what we have here stays in sequence. So just in case you bump your table and something falls off, then you don't have to worry too much. So we're fitting this assembly exactly the same way as what it came off, so there's no changes whatsoever. With all your washers, just align them, make sure that you get them all exactly in the same sequence. You can see it's a bit of a finicky job, but not difficult to do. Let me just get a pin in there just to align these things. Okay, and then we're going to push this one through. Oops. Okay, there we go. That's through. And then this one is the last little part that goes on here. It's got a little spring in there, and then you've got your nut that you're going to put on. Okay, so now make sure that you push this washer in. It's got a spring in on the inside, and then all you do is you screw this on. This is not very difficult, should go on quite easy, and there we go, it's on. So what we're going to do now is, like I said, we're going to put it back in our little tool there, and we are going to just torque this a bit. Nothing serious. There we go. And there is our assembly, basically finished. The only thing that's left for us to do now is that we need to put the O-rings back. So let me show you how to do that quick. Obviously we've got those two, and we've got that one O-ring that needs to go back. Okay, so first thing I like to do is just to put a bit of oil on here. So we're going to put some oil on, just so that things are going to fit a bit easier, and then we'll push this over. One thing, guys, that I always like to do is don't push that over the O-rings. So try and remove the O-rings, so that when you push this over, there's no O-ring in the way, because I think this could hurt the O-ring if you do it the other way around. So not difficult, this, just like push it apart a bit and push it down. And you can just use your fingers for this if you don't want to scratch the aluminium. Then you've got to go over the aluminium fitting there. And you can see I use gloves, and basically that is just to try and keep my hands clean as far as possible. There you can see it clipped in, and I move it to the top position. Okay, next one, just to make it a bit more oily so that it fits easier. Same procedure, fit it over the top here. Just with your fingers, open it up a bit there in the little lip that it's got. Open it up a bit with your nails. Push it over. And you don't have to really push. It goes quite easily. Just make sure that it doesn't hook anywhere, so that you don't pull the thing apart or bend it too much. Okay. And you don't want to get your gloves stuck in there as well. Okay, and you'll hear it click once it fits. Okay, there we go. Fit it. Okay, we can move them. They move freely around, no problem. Okay, so the next one then is our big O-ring. So you make sure our big O-ring has got oil on it, and it's an O-ring, not too much of a problem. We just push it over the top, and it's got to go into the recess, and it always goes into that recess. No matter what you do, it will go in there. So I don't like using tools here, because otherwise you can hit. Sorry guys, I'm going to have to take this off now, because this is becoming a problem now. So you want to just push it over like that, move it over those little recesses there. You can see the thick O-ring is always the one that's a bit of a problem, but it does come over, and there, fit it. Okay, no problem. And just like oil it a bit, make sure that it's okay there and that it fits well. And then we have the final little O-ring, and I'm just cleaning it a bit just to make sure that there's nothing on the O-ring, and then a bit of oil on it. And that O-ring then goes into that recess there. And again, just use your fingers to do it. And there we go. That is the whole assembly. So if you look, there's 3 O-rings, 1, 2, 3. If you get bypass and you get air out your air screw, it could be that one of these O-rings are leaking, or it is the seal inside this aluminium fitting, as we just changed, which could cause that leaking. And what you need to do now is, this is now screwed into our inside damper. So I'm going to quickly show you how to do that, and then we'll test and make sure that the assembly is correct. So inside damper, we're going to put back into our clamp. So I'm going to remove that. Remember, when you put this onto your clamp, it's not to really be tough on it. It's made of aluminium. You just want it to sit in there. That's all you want to do. So normally, if you look at the manuals, this is for a 450X or Honda 450X. It takes around about 200 milliliters of fork oil. I'm using Motul 5W, which is a light one. You can use the type that you prefer. The biggest thing that you need to do here is you need to make sure that all the air is removed from this inside damper. And the way that you do that is you pull the piston out, and don't be too hasty to pull it out too quick, because what will happen is the oil will just spurt out the top. Okay, so I have already filled this with oil, but what I normally do is I'll use a syringe up to 50 millimeters and I'll put 4 of those in here. You would like to get the oil level to round about that mark there. Okay, if you get it higher, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to battle to get the assembly in, so it's not end of the world. You're just going to battle, so it's better to just try and get it there. Then what you do is push the piston in and pull it out, and like I say, don't be too hasty to pull it out, otherwise you'll get this situation where the oil will just spurt out, and you'll hear that there's like a gurgling, bubbling sound, which means that you are expelling the air. I normally try and do this about 10 times just to make 100% sure. And then it's also important to ensure that the oil level does not drop too low, because remember, as you expel the air here, the oil level will go down in the little reservoir here. Alright, and then leave the piston at the furthest point that it can be, and look inside, make sure that your oil level is alright. My oil level, I can see I need a bit of oil there, very little, there we go, oil level sits there. So what we're going to do now is we are going to fit this screw assembly with a new seal. So I just like to ensure that things are oiled, so a bit of oil in there on top of the seal, and then you want to make sure that all these O-rings are oiled so that they will slip in a bit easier. So just make sure that they're oiled a bit, and then what you do is you fit them in here, and you'll see initially, there we go. I hope you guys saw that. It takes a bit of pushing and it goes down, and just use your hand to push it right in to that point there, and you can see it's right at the point where I'll start to screw it in now. So again, some oil on the top O-ring, so just some fork oil there, just to make sure that the seal is okay and that it seals well. And then you need to use your tool again, which is this little tool here, and this is why I say you cannot do this job without this tool, because chances are you're just going to really mark the shock in a bad way, which is not going to look good. And obviously you want to look after your bike and you want to make sure that it looks the best for many years. So that's why you need to use a tool like this to make sure that everything is fine. So you basically just screw it in, nothing special there. You'll see it goes in past the top, and you'll know when it is at the bottom. See there, I touched the bottom now, so don't have to really, just a bit. See, I just pull it a bit so that it goes in, and there we have it. So it's in. So what needs to happen now is, when we look at our damper like this, the rod must come out by itself. And you can see how nicely this one is coming out, which means that there's no blow-by. So you guys can see that. There's no blow-by here. The rod pops out every time perfectly, which means the shock is now ready to be assembled into the main shock. This is just a piece of paper that I fitted in there that goes like this. Okay, so we're ready for the next step, and that is fitting this back into our main shock. You can see that the screw at the bottom is fitted already. That fits through the bottom of the shock. So make sure that you fit it nicely in there, and make sure that the spring is actually in there, that you did not forget to move the spring in there. So you just drop it in there. All you do is move up the outer sleeve, and you don't have to screw it in now. Just give it 2 or 3 turns so that it bites. Okay, so the next step then is to put it onto something soft. And the idea there is that you can push down and you can see the assembly sticking out like that. You can make a little tool, but I have realized that a number 12 works just as well. So a number 12 spanner fits in there, and it keeps that assembly up and you can work on it. So first thing that goes in, obviously our little rod for adjustments. You will see it sticks out like that. What you need, oh, there it falls in now. You can actually turn it a bit and it'll fall in because it's got to go in. It should not stick out. What is important, guys, you need to refer to your manual. The amount of thread that is sticking out from here has got to be according to the manual. If I measure mine works out to 12 and it is exactly 12 according to my gauge. So that is how much thread you want this screw to have sticking out. So the next step then is, once you know that that is correct, look at the flat side, make sure that it fits against the flat side of your internal rod that you fitted there, and then screw it in. You'll feel it's got a click click kind of motion. That's 100%, no problem with that. So you screw it in until it goes flush against that screw, or not flush, until it goes tight. Now what you need to do now is, and for this I'm going to put it back into the bench press just to make sure that it works well. So we're going to move it back up here. We're going to put it inside our clamp and we're going to clamp it lightly. You don't have to put too much force on this. What you want to do now is you want to make sure that this screw assembly is torqued against the inside screw assembly. So inside screw assembly, you just get something that can hold onto it and you basically just screw it on like this. Again, guys, you don't have to put too much pressure on this, just a bit. You can see just there. Remember, it's aluminium, so you don't want to do too much. So the next thing you do is take it out, because you don't want to just pull this out, then this one will jump back in, which is not good. What you also want to do before you do that is make sure that this O-ring is oiled, just to make sure that it seals well. So there you can see it's oiled. So what I'm going to do now again, I'm going to push it back onto the floor like this, push back on the shock, take my 12 out and release it slowly so that it fits in nicely like that. See, it went in perfectly. What you want to do then is you want to put it back into your bench press. Don't put too much pressure on it. Remember, this is still aluminium, just a bit so that it holds on, and then you want to tighten this down a bit. Again, guys, you don't have to work on Newton meter torque figures or anything like that. Basically, you just put a bit of pressure on it to make sure that it catches well, and that's it. So you screw it in well. Remember, it's got an O-ring that it seals with, so it's not the thread or anything like that that's going to seal it. Okay, just a bit of pressure to make sure that it's fitting. 100%. There we got it. Fitted. Basically, that is then fully assembled. Guys, so we get to the final stages now. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill the fork up with oil. So just move the top down a bit. Like I explained previously, I like to use a syringe, partly because you know exactly how much oil you put in. In my situation, I'm putting in 400 milliliters. Please look at your manual to consult how much you must put in, or how much you have to put in. For Honda CRF 450, it works out to 400 milliliters. Okay, and you need to be quite accurate with this. So make sure that we are on 50. Okay. 52. Okay, there you go. See, this is the nice thing about using this syringe. You can actually push it in on the side and you've got no oil spilling out or anything like that. So you just push the oil through. Okay, so that's 50. Okay, 100. 150. 200. Please guys, I'm using Motul. You can use any oil that you prefer to use. And you'll see that I put in exactly 200 into this little plastic container, just to make sure that I don't get confused with the amount of times I have to put stuff in. So that's 250 then. $300. $350, and this is the last one. And there we go, 400 milliliters in. So what we do, push up, screw in the top, make sure that you oil the seal, the O-ring actually that we've got here. So we just put a bit of oil on that, and we just screw it in my hand. And now we're going to use our tool again, and you can do the final tightening once you've got it in the clamps on the bike. But I just give it like a little torque there, and then I'll do that once I get it in the bike, and there you have it, brand new, perfect, filled with oil, ready to put back on your off-road motorcycle. Thank you guys, thank you for watching this video. There we have the completed Showa Shock. Please leave your comments down below on the video, and if there's any questions I will answer them without any problems. Enjoy your biking and be safe.